I found it in a cardboard box labeled MISC, bedroom. I was helping my mother-in-law, Sandra, move from her house into a smaller apartment, the way you do these things when you are a good daughter-in-law, and you are trying, always trying, to be good enough for a woman who has made it quietly clear from the first month of your marriage that you are not. The journal was purple, cloth cover, the kind of thing you buy at a boutique because it feels more significant than a spiral notebook. I almost put it in the box unopened. I don't know why I didn't. I opened it. I read the first 3 pages standing in her empty bedroom with the late afternoon light coming through windows she was about to stop owning. By page 3, I understood that the problem was worse than I had thought. By page 8, I understood exactly how bad it was. By page 14, I had a decision to make. I sat down on the bare floor and I read every single word. If you're new here, subscribe right now. I promise you won't regret it. Hit the bell, too. This story is one I have thought about how to tell for a long time, because it is not simple, and I don't want to make it simple. This is the story of a woman who wanted to end my marriage, and why, by the time I was done, she had given me everything I needed to make sure she never got close to it again. My husband's name is James. He is the best person I have met in my 36 years on Earth. He is steady, funny in a dry and unexpected way, generous in the particular manner of people who were raised to be generous before they knew it was a virtue. His mother, Sandra, is 63. She is an elegant woman, slim, well-dressed, with the precise posture of someone who has decided their bearing is an argument. She hosted dinner parties, she volunteered at the symphony. She had opinions about thread count and wine temperature and the correct way to address a formal envelope. She also, I would come to understand, had been conducting a 3-year campaign to end my marriage. She had just been doing it invisibly. James and I married 4 years ago after 3 years together. Sandra had been opposed from the beginning. Not loudly, not overtly, but in the particular frequency of a woman who knows how to make her feelings known without ever saying them. The comment framed as concern. The compliment with a sharp edge in it. The question asked in front of company that has only one comfortable answer. I am a graphic designer. I have my own studio. Small, profitable, mine. I am not what Sandra had pictured for her son. I understood this without it ever being said. What I did not understand was how far she had been willing to go. I want to give you specific incidents, not a vague sense that things were tense. Specific things that happened, that I noted, that I talked to James about, and that he consistently interpreted more charitably than I did. Year 1. Sandra told James, at a dinner I wasn't present for, that she was worried I seemed unhappy. James came home and asked if I was okay. I was fine. I had been fine. Sandra had planted a seed of doubt where there was no soil for it. Year 2. She told James's sister. His sister told me months later, and I believe she told me because she felt guilty for staying quiet, that I had said something dismissive about James's career. I had said no such thing. But by the time I found out about it, the conversation had already happened, the impression had already been made, the denial was already defensive rather than preventive. Year 3. 3 months before the move. James and I had a fight. A real fight. The kind of fight that long marriages have, about something real, that you resolve and move past. We resolved it, we moved past it. A week later, James came home from lunch with Sandra. He was quiet. I asked if he was okay. He said Sandra was concerned about us. He said she had asked if things were really all right. I said, how would Sandra know about the fight? He said he hadn't told her. We looked at each other. Neither of us said the next thing. Sandra had decided to downsize. Her house was large and she was alone, and it was sensible, and she presented it as sensible, which it was. James and I had offered to help, which is what you do. 2 Saturdays in September. The move itself was handled by movers. We were just there for packing, sorting, The human parts of helping someone transfer their life from one container to another. James was downstairs dealing with the kitchen. I was in the bedroom. The box labeled MISC/bedroom was on the closet shelf. When I lifted it down, the journal slid out from under a pile of papers and landed open at my feet, face up, showing a date from 8 months ago. I picked it up. I read the first line. The first line said, "James called. He sounded tired. She is wearing him down." I read the whole thing. I am not going to tell you I hesitated more than a moment. I didn't. I knew what it was, and I read it. 3 years of entries. Not daily, but frequent and detailed. Sandra was not a woman who expressed herself carelessly, even in private. The journal was organized, specific, and in places frighteningly strategic. Let me tell you some of what it contained. Entry from 2.5 years ago. Dinner with Jay alone. He mentioned she didn't come. He made an excuse, but I think there's friction there. I told him he could always talk to me. I told him I was concerned about how she handles stress. He said she was fine. I said I hoped so. That's enough for now. Entry from 18 months ago. Called Lisa, this is James's sister, and mentioned what I'd heard about the career comment. Lisa was surprised. I think she'll say something to Jay. Below it, a single line. The drip method is slow, but it works. The drip method. 3 words that I read standing on a bare floor in a house I had been helping to pack for 4 hours. The drip method. A slow, consistent delivery of doubt. Small moments. Planted concerns. Nothing confrontational. Nothing provable. Just a steady drip of erosion against the foundation of our marriage. She had named her own strategy, and she had been running it for 3 years. Entry from 6 weeks before the move, the one that made me sit down. Holiday season coming. I've been thinking about the dinner. If I can get Jay alone first and bring up the money question before she frames it, the dynamic shifts. He'll come to me worried, and I'll be the one who listened first. This is the moment. I've been patient. Time to use it. I read that entry 4 times. Then I put the journal back in the box, sealed the box, and wrote MISC, bedroom, on the top in large letters. I went downstairs. I made James a cup of coffee. I helped pack the kitchen for 2 more hours. I said nothing. James fell asleep first. He does when he's physically tired from a day of lifting and carrying. I lay next to him in the dark, with the ceiling I know by heart above me, and I thought about the journal. I thought about every instance I had dismissed my own instincts. Every time I had told myself Sandra wasn't as intentional as she seemed. Every conversation I had ended with James where I'd backed down because being right felt less important than keeping the peace. I thought about the drip method. 3 words. Clinical, patient. She had been patient. I was going to have to be more patient. I did not tell James that night. Not because I was hiding it. Because I needed to think about what I actually had and what I actually wanted to do with it. I spent 4 days thinking. Then I made a plan. James needed to understand what his mother was doing. That was the foundation of everything. Not because I wanted to damage their relationship. I did not. James and Sandra have a relationship that exists independently of me, and I have always respected that. But James had been an instrument in her strategy without knowing it. Every concern she'd planted, he had carried to me. Every seed of doubt he had watered. Not from malice, from love for his mother, from the instinct to take her concerns at face value. He needed to know. But how you tell someone their parent has been deliberately undermining their marriage, how you do that without it becoming about you, is delicate. I couldn't just hand him the journal. That would make it feel like an attack, like I had surveilled his mother, like I was bringing him a weapon. I needed him to see it differently. I also, and this is the part Sandra hadn't planned for, had the holiday dinner to work with. She had written about it. She had a plan for it. She had written, "If I can get Jay alone first and bring up the money question." I didn't know what the money question was yet, but I knew it was coming, and I knew she was going to try to get James alone first. So I made one adjustment. I made sure she couldn't. The dinner was at James's aunt's house. 12 people. Sandra arrived and, within 15 minutes, suggested to James that they should catch up in the study. There was something she wanted to talk to him about. James looked at me. This is the part where I want to be precise. I had not coached James. I had not told him about the journal. But in the 4 days before the dinner, I had done something different. I had been honest with James. Not about Sandra specifically, but about me. About the fact that I had been feeling, for a while, that there were conversations happening around our marriage that I wasn't part of. That I would like it, going forward, if we were more of a unit. James had listened. And at the dinner, when Sandra suggested the study, James said, "Whatever you want to say to me, you can say in front of Mel." His name for me. We don't have secrets. Sandra's expression was, and I watched it carefully, the way you watch the face of someone whose plan has just encountered an obstacle, briefly, precisely, not what she had prepared. She recovered. She is good at recovering. She said, "Of course. I just wanted to mention that I'd been thinking about the estate and some financial planning, and I thought James should be informed before—" James said, "Before Mel?" Sandra said, "I just thought—" James said, "We make financial decisions together, Mom. Whatever it is, tell us both." Sandra told us both. It was a topic about a potential loan, something about property she was considering. Nothing that matched the weaponized money question she'd written about. It had either been diffused or transformed in the real-time improvisation of a plan meeting resistance. We drove home. In the car, James said, "My mother is interesting sometimes." I said, "She is." He looked at me. I said, "Can I show you something when we get home?" I had photographed 12 pages of the journal, the most specific entries, the drip method entry, the holiday dinner planning entry, 3 others that showed the pattern clearly. I sat next to James on our couch, and I showed him the photos. I explained how I had found it. I gave him time to read. He read for a long time. I watched his face go through several things. Disbelief first, the face of someone reading something they don't want to be accurate. Then a particular stillness. Then something older and sadder. He said, "She wrote drip method?" I said, "She did." He was quiet for a long time. He said, "How long have you known about this?" I said, 4 days. He said, "Why did you wait?" I said, "Because I didn't want to hand you something in the middle of the move when you were exhausted, and because I wanted to see the dinner first." He asked what I meant by that. I told him about the entry, about getting him alone. He looked at his hands. Then he said, "I need to call her." I said, "I know." The call happened the next morning. I was not in the room. I went for a walk. I came back an hour later. James was sitting at the kitchen table looking at the wall, in the way he looks when he is processing something significant. He said, "She didn't deny most of it." I sat down. He said, "She said she was protecting me, that she'd always thought you were wrong for me, and she was trying to help me see it before it was too late." I said, "What did you say?" He said, "I told her she had spent 3 years trying to end my marriage to someone I love, and that she had done it by treating me like someone who needed to be managed, rather than someone who could make his own decisions." A pause. I told her we needed some distance. Sandra and James have not fully repaired things. They speak monthly. The dinners are less frequent. The relationship is more honest than it was, which is a strange gift in a way, that came from a purple journal in a cardboard box. She has never mentioned the journal to me. I have never raised it with her. There is a thing that exists between us now, an acknowledgement, unspoken, that I know and she knows I know. I find that to be sufficient. James and I are better than before. This is not the outcome I expected from a Saturday afternoon helping pack a house, but it is the true one. What I've thought about since: how many things go unexamined because we are too gracious, too conflict averse, too committed to the performance of a family that is fine? How much damage can accumulate behind a smooth surface when no one looks too closely? Sandra was patient. I was more patient. And the marriage she spent 3 years trying to take apart is the strongest it has ever been. Stay subscribed. New stories every week. Hit that bell. I'll see you in the next one.